The grand palace stands under a clear, sparkling sky, a symbol of royalty and power. A concerned maid asks a somber woman in a black dress if she is truly sure about her attire for her husband's victory celebration. The maid expresses confusion about the woman wearing a black dress to a victory celebration, as the woman in black gazes stoically ahead. The woman in the black dress assures the maid she is fine, and not to worry, her expression still laden with sorrow. Narration observes the woman looks less like a triumphant commander's wife and more like someone who lost her husband in the war. The narrative clarifies that wearing a glamorous dress today would be a strange choice, hinting at the true significance of the day as the war finally concludes. Knights on horseback are celebrated by cheering crowds, proclaiming the war is finally over. The crowd celebrates Count Tilden's victory, but the woman in black reveals her hidden intent. Today is the day she will divorce her husband. The woman in black, veiled and somber, observes the celebrations from behind a window, physically present but emotionally distant. A regal title card introduces the Kingdom of Graham, featuring its royal family, the king, queen, and their two young princesses, Serenil and Layla. Serenil, the kingdom's first princess, is introduced as beautiful, depicted smiling brightly as a young girl. Narration further praises Serenil, highlighting her intelligence as she stands in a royal hall surrounded by nobles. Serenil is described as receiving the love and expectations of the people, shown engaging pleasantly with adults. Elders marvel at 8-year-old Serenil's capabilities, confident that she secures the future of their country. Serenil sits gracefully, deep in thought, as someone praises her as expected of Princess Serenil. Serenil's younger sister, Laya, is shown to be deeply attached to her, as Serenil demonstrates a glowing magical ability in her hands for Laya. Serenil reveals her magical feat worked by following a book, making a glowing orb that Layla exclaims is beautiful. Narration confirms Serenil was born with rare magical power, and Layla excitedly praises her sister's amazing abilities. Crowds cheer, wishing Princess Serenil a happy birthday, affirming her image as a perfect princess. A young Serenil, crowned and radiant, waves joyfully from a balcony with her parents to adoring crowds below. But after her 10th birthday, Serenil's life changed drastically, marked by a visual of cracking darkness. Serenil collapses from an intense burning sensation in her body, weakly reassuring her concerned father that she is all right. Serenil clenches her chest in pain, her eyes wide with distress as her condition worsens. Serenil suddenly collapses, causing her father to gasp in shock and alarm. Serenil lies sprawled on the floor, weak and in pain, as her father frantically calls out her name. Her father frantically tries to cradle Serenil as she continues to fall, her body seemingly giving out. Her father desperately pleads for Serenil to stay with them, while another voice echoes, "Princess," as her eyes close in unconsciousness. Serenil slowly awakens in a bed, groggily uttering, as someone joyfully announces her awakening. Her worried parents hover over her, asking how she feels, and expressing concern over her sudden collapse. Serenil apologizes for worrying them, and reassures them, saying she feels much better now. Her parents react with shock and horror, the father exclaiming, "Oh my!" Servants and her parents gasp in horror as someone notices something amiss with the princess. Serenil stares into a hand mirror, horrified to see her face disfigured and bruised. Serenil sits in bed, clutching a small mirror, gazing at her marred reflection in despair. A robed woman declares the curse is too powerful to break, while Serenil clutches a small key-like object, questioning how this could have happened. Serenil's father vows to find a way to help her, his voice trailing off as a dark, thorny image of Serenil's cursed face flashes. Serenil sits alone on a chair, her face hidden by a black veil, as the cruel decision to hide her face is revealed. The entire kingdom dedicates its strength to breaking the princess's curse, with Serenil surrounded by people seeking a cure. A scholar is frustrated by the lack of similar cases, questioning what to do, while Serenil looks distraught, trapped by her condition. Serenil, surrounded by books and papers, is frustrated by her inability to do nothing and wishes to find a solution. Serenil, clutching a book, realizes a method might work and resolves to tell her father quickly. Serenil's father argues they've done all they can and must now prioritize dealing with a neighboring country's invasion, while the queen expresses concern about the succession. The queen angrily asserts that Layla can take the throne if Serenil cannot, showing a harsh shift in her priorities. Serenil's father comforts the queen, expressing sorrow for Laya, acknowledging the new burden she might face. Someone apologizes, acknowledging that Serenial, in her current state, could not gain the people's trust even if she inherited the throne. Serenial looks heartbroken. Serenial walks alone through an opulent hallway, further emphasizing that her current condition prevents her from earning public trust. A maid laments that the public's sympathy for Serenial has faded and reminds others that the princess should remain confined. The maid relays that the queen is unwell and Laya will attend the event, subtly implying Serenial's continued isolation. Laya is seen enjoying herself outside with another woman, highlighting Serenial's exclusion from social life. The maid coldly informs Serenial that Laya will be attending public events and that Serenial is kindly asked to remain in her room, a crushing blow to the princess's spirit. Whispers circulate about Serenial potentially dabbling in dark magic, speculating her magical power led to her disfigurement as a side effect. More whispers suggest Serenial was always unusually clever for her age, even linking her to the recent war. Serenial, veiled, observes Laya from above as her younger sister joyfully socializes with another woman, emphasizing Serenial's isolation. The scene transitions as Serenial walks away, her back to the viewer, confirming her departure from the palace. A tear falls from Serenial's veiled face, showing her deep sadness and despair. 8 years later, Laya and 2 adults are happily engaged in conversation outdoors. Serenial, still veiled, watches Laya and the others from a distance, her continued exclusion from their joy evident. People are shocked upon seeing Serenial, with some asking if it is her, while others warn against looking, fearing the curse might spread. Serenial stands alone in a grand hall, isolated, as narration reveals that even eye contact with her is now forbidden. A man kneels before a veiled Serenial surrounded by glowing flowers, addressing her as Princess Serenial. The kneeling man, in formal attire, states it has been a while since they last met, confirming he is the one who spoke to her. A close-up of Serenial's veiled face reveals her solemn expression. The narrative highlights the man as the only one capable of looking directly at Serenial's disfigured face hidden behind her veil as he maintains a resolute gaze. Serenial looks at the kneeling man who repeats his greeting, saying it has been a while since they last met, while a small chibi character gives a friendly wave. A handsome man in an elegant uniform, Castle Tilden, gazes off to the side with a serious expression. A crest identifies the man as Castle Tilden, depicted in knight armor, signifying his noble lineage. Narration praises Castle Tilden as the eldest son of a noble knight family, known for his striking looks and being a desirable partner. Serenial, veiled, gazes intently at Castle Tilden, who returns her look, surrounded by radiant flowers. Serenial acknowledges in her thoughts that Castle Tilden is the man she first loved, his face appearing somber. Castle Tilden explains he is at the royal palace to greet the king before heading to the front, and politely asks Serenial how she has been. Serenial, standing stiffly in her veiled dress, replies that nothing has changed for her. Castle Tilden responds that it's good to hear, his expression still serious. Castle Tilden observes Serenial from a distance, noting the presence of many people around them. Castle Tilden offers to escort Serenial to the reception room, maintaining his serious demeanor. Serenial internally questions if Castle Tilden still perceives her as the full Princess of Graham. Serenial declines his offer, stating she appreciates it, but prefers to walk alone, her veiled face showing distress. Serenial watches Castle Tilden walk away, his back to her, as bright light streams through large windows. Serenial silently laments that she wanted to be with him, but didn't want him to witness her being mocked by others around them. Serenial, clutching her veiled face, expresses profound sorrow, wishing she had never been cursed. A hand offers Serenial a cup of tea as she sits, and asks if they intend to send her to a convent. Seated with Serenial, an older woman and man explain they are only suggesting the convent for the sake of her treatment. The queen explains that trustworthy people at the convent might find a cure, while Serenial internally questions if this is merely an excuse to remove her from the palace. Serenial clenches her dress, her internal thoughts filled with bitterness, believing she was summoned only to be expelled from the palace. Serenial acknowledges that she hasn't stepped down from succession, and wonders if her continued presence troubles Laya, then dismisses the idea. The queen, with a sad smile, tells Serenial that nearly 10 years have passed without the curse breaking, and they are seeking new options, reassuring her that it's all for her well-being. Laya smiles brightly, stating this is a good opportunity for Serenial. Laya asks Serenial if the curse can truly be broken, her expression hopeful. In a past memory, Lila asks a veiled young Sereniel if she will return. Young Lila gently touches Sereniel's veiled face, seeking reassurance about their reunion. Sereniel looks distraught, reflecting on Layla's presence during a painful moment. Young Sereniel sits huddled on the floor amidst shattered pieces, reliving a traumatic memory of collapse. Young Sereniel's eyes widen in terror, the curse marks visible on her face as she hears someone call her sister. Young Lila peeks around a door, her name being called out by an unseen adult. Young Layla confronts Sereniel with wide, tearful eyes, asking if the rumors of her curse are true. Sereniel reassures Layla that she will be cured soon and gently tells her to return to her room. Young Sereniel holds a tearful Layla, who expresses that the mark is hideous. A close-up shows young Sereniel looking surprised as Lila reaches out, insisting she wants to see the mark. Young Lila stands with a cloth in her hand, her eyes filled with concern. A man clutches a distressed woman, looking shocked as he hears a scream and calls out Lila's name. Lila embraces Sereniel in a grand hall as their worried parents observe the scene. Lila looks up in distress, calling out for her mother. The queen urgently checks on Lila, asking if she is okay, while another woman watches on. The queen cradles a distraught Lila, who calls out Sereniel's name. Sereniel, with a pained expression, denies doing anything, but an angry voice accuses her of misconduct. The queen raises her fist in anger, her face contorted in a furious expression. Sereniel's disfigured face is visible as an enraged voice berates her for calling Layla to her room. Sereniel looks devastated, trying to explain herself, as a voice worries about the curse spreading to Layla. The queen holds Layla tightly, demanding what would happen if Layla also became cursed. Sereniel stands with a forlorn expression as a voice angrily questions if she still calls herself Layla's sister. Layla complains of a headache, prompting the queen to frantically demand a mage for purification and to leave with Layla. Lila is led away, looking dazed and unwell after the incident. Sereniel's marred face is highlighted in despair, with the sound of thudding. Lila and another woman happily discuss Tildren's deployment, with Lila mentioning she saw him earlier. The woman speculates about a marriage proposal for Layla, while Lila dismisses her mother's excitement. Sereniel, veiled, observes Lila and the woman from a distance, feeling her mind becoming twisted like her face. A bright and smiling Layla is shown, emphasizing her carefree happiness. Sereniel, veiled, watches Layla from afar, lamenting that her heart is becoming as ugly as her disfigured face. Sereniel, with a soft sigh, declares her decision to go to the monastery. The queen expresses pleasure at Sereniel's decision and offers to arrange her swift departure to the monastery. Sereniel, veiled, looks resolute, stating her refusal to degrade herself further. Sereniel reflects on leaving her current life behind for a new one, as she is escorted by a man. Tilden is shown in a close-up, looking thoughtful. The narration explains that Sereniel's movements became even more restricted after Lila's incident, while her distraught mother holds Lila. A guard stands in a hallway, illustrating the severe restrictions on Sereniel's movements. Rumors circulate among gossiping women that the queen fell ill after touching Sereniel. People at a ball turn away and whisper about Sereniel, who attends her first social event in ages. Sereniel stands alone in an elegant black dress and veil, looking somber and isolated at the event. A close-up of Sereniel's veiled face, showing her solemn expression. Tilden bows to Sereniel, formally requesting the first dance. Sereniel, veiled, accepts Tilden's hand to begin their dance. An overhead shot captures Sereniel and Tilden gracefully dancing together. Sereniel and Tilden dance elegantly amidst other guests in the grand hall. Sereniel and Tilden share a gaze while dancing, and Sereniel feels as if she's returned to her former self. Sereniel, veiled, stands beside Tilden, feeling like the normal princess she was before the curse. Tilden looks at Sereniel, expressing that dancing with her was an honor. A wistful close-up of Sereniel's veiled face. Sereniel, veiled, acknowledges Tilden's compliment with a reflective expression. Sereniel laments that for a monster princess like her, being with Tilden was merely a dream. Sereniel, veiled, gazes out a window, reflecting on Tilden and Lila growing close while she was confined. The narration introduces Tilden as a young knight from a noble house. The narration introduces Lila as the son of the kingdom, depicted smiling brightly. Cassel Tildrian and Layla are seen together in a sunlit garden, highlighting their bond. Guests at the party whisper, questioning Sarah Neil's presence and her black dress. Sarah Neil stands in her elegant black dress and veil, looking melancholic at the party. Sarah Neil reveals her purpose for attending was to say goodbye before leaving for the convent, with a close-up of her eye. Sarah Neil observes Cassel Tildrian and other nobles, feeling she cannot approach him. Sarah Neil concludes she cannot approach Cassel Tildrian, as she watches him from afar. Lila greets Count Tildrian, surprising him as Sarah Neil stands nearby in her veiled black dress. Lila expresses her desire to speak privately with Count Tildrian before he deploys, asking if he has a moment. Sarah Neil's eye observes the conversation from a distance. Whispers circulate about Count Tildrian returning from the war. Lila holds Count Tildrian's hand as Sarah Neil, veiled, watches them from behind. Rumors suggest the king and queen are actively pushing for Lila's marriage match. Sarah Neil reflects that Layla is not like her, paralyzed by fear and unable to act, emphasizing her own veiled isolation. A close-up shows Sarah Neil's solemn veiled face, highlighting her disfigurement. Sarah Neil turns away, burdened by her hidden condition. Sarah Neil thinks she would only be in the way if she stayed at the event. Sarah Neil decides to return to her room, walking away from the palace social gathering. Sarah Neil reaches for a door handle, gazing at the starry night sky and full moon outside. Sarah Neil laments that she won't be able to take night strolls like this anymore. Sarah Neil reflects on leaving for the convent tomorrow, realizing she won't have such simple luxuries there. Sarah Neil calls it a pathetic final night, then suddenly senses something amiss. Cassel Tildrian appears distressed, covering his face, seemingly unwell. Tears stream down Cassel Tildrian's face, surprising Sarah Neil, who wonders why he is there. Sarah Neil places her hand on Cassel Tildrian's arm, asking if he feels unwell. Sarah Neil reacts with surprise, beginning to understand the situation. Sarah Neil notes Cassel Tildrian's feverish gaze, confirming her suspicions. Sarah Neil wonders if someone gave him something. Cassel Tildrian looks dazed and confused amidst the other party guests. Sarah Neil realizes someone might have slipped something into Lord Tildrian's drink. Sarah Neil looks horrified, realizing Cassel Tildrian was given an aphrodisiac. Sarah Neil attempts to get a doctor for Cassel Tildrian, but he grabs her arm and pulls her close. Cassel Tildrian looks directly at Sarah Neil, his eyes clouded, and murmurs, "Princess?" Sarah Neil is startled, realizing he is calling her princess, and looks confused. Sarah Neil believes he must be mistaking her for Layla and tries to address him. Cassel Tildrian continues to murmur princess, and Sarah Neil realizes he can't hear her due to the drug's effects. Sarah Neil recalls Cassel Tildrian pulling her close, which caused her veil to fall off. Cassel Tildrian looked directly at Sarah Neil's unveiled face, and she found herself unable to refuse him. A close-up of Sarah Neil's unmasked face reveals her emotional state. Sarah Neil thinks about Cassel Tildrian's hot and sweet breath on her lips. Sarah Neil didn't want to let go as Cassel Tildrian kissed her passionately under the moon. Sarah Neil, with a flushed face, utters Cassel's name and invites him to her room. A chibi character welcomes readers, while Sarah Neil lies on a bed below. Sarah Neil weakly attempts to push Cassel Tildrian away as he leans over her on the bed. Sarah Neil and Cassel Tildrian share a close, intimate kiss. Sarah Neil calls out Cassel Tildrian's name while being intimately held. Sarah Neil reflects on how close he is now, contrasting it with only being able to gaze at him from afar before. Sarah Neil feels overwhelmed by his closeness, hearing his heartbeat. Sarah Neil feels completely overwhelmed and unsure of what to do as he embraces her. Cassel Tildrian, with his eyes clouded by the drug, still looks at Sarah Neil with concern and respect. Sarah Neil's disfigured face is visible as Cassel Tildrian's hand touches her cheek. Cassel Tildrian leans close to Sarah Neil, still looking down at her. Sparkling lights and pink flowers create a romantic backdrop as Sarah Neil reflects on the moment. Cassel and Sarah Neil share a passionate kiss, the night feeling like a fleeting dream. Bright morning light illuminates the grand palace, marking the new day. A man confirms Cassel was drugged, stating symptoms and traces of the substance remained. The man explains that many offered drinks to Cassel during his first deployment as commanding officer. A shadowy, distorted image implies difficulty in identifying the culprit behind the drugging. Cassel looks unwell, holding a drink, suggesting he was indeed drugged. Sarah Neil sits alone, veiled and somber, pondering the aftermath of the incident. Lila angrily accuses Sarah Neil of lying and drugging Cassel to steal him. Lila further condemns Sarah Neil for using such disgraceful trickery to try and steal Cassel. Lila remarks on Sarah Neil's persistent cunning, despite her curse, as Serenil anticipates being blamed. Serenil remains silent, looking away as Laya continues her accusations. Serenil internally asserts that if she truly intended to take Cassel, she wouldn't have caused such a public scandal. Serenil states she could have quietly summoned Cassel to her chambers if she desired him, leaving Layla surprised. Serenil calmly looks away, while Lila appears stunned and frustrated by Serenil's bold statement. Layla angrily points at Serenil, addressing her father about Serenil's scandalous claim. An older man, Lila's father, acknowledges Serenil's position but questions her next move, asserting his final decision-making authority. Serenil proposes the incident be treated as an accident and requests witnesses remain silent, believing Cassel would prefer this. Serenil suggests that if this resolution is sufficient, Cassel would prefer to avoid further escalation. A man in a formal uniform, likely Cassel, stands looking decisive, ready to speak. Lila looks surprised and uneasy as Serenil calls out for Lord Cassel. Serenil, veiled, declares she takes full responsibility for everything that transpired. Serenil shocks Lila by announcing that Sir Tilden is going to marry her. Cassel stands protectively behind Serenil, placing a hand on her shoulder, confirming their shared future as a chibi character encourages readers. Serenil, partially veiled, looks distressed as a hand gently rests on her shoulder. Her veiled eye shows deep sadness as she internally protests, "No, not like this." Serenil internally thinks she doesn't want to trouble Sir Tilden. Castle Tilden walks away, his back to the viewer, leaving Serenil behind. Serenil, looking resolute, declares her decision to go to the monastery as planned. She internally states that breaking the curse there is far more important to her. Serenil's eye widens in surprise as a voice calls her name, Serenil Graham. An older man, presumably her father, gestures with his hand, looking resolved. Serenil looks devastated as the man announces her royal authority is stripped. Serenil clenches her dress, her expression conveying deep sorrow and powerlessness. The man declares Serenil will now serve as a member of the Tilden family and support the Count. Serenil reaches out, pleading with her father, who is turning away from her. Her father firmly states he has nothing more to say, dismissing her. The man commands Serenil to leave, his face grim. Serenil internally questions if driving her from the palace means they don't mind involving Sir Tilden. She continues to wonder if they would truly drag Sir Tilden into her misfortune as well. Castle Tilden stands thoughtfully, his expression serious and distant. Narration reveals these selfish people, including a man and Layla, rule the nation as royalty. Serenil looks with deep pain and anger as she realizes these same people are her family. Serenil, veiled, stands beside Castle Tilden, both looking somber, reflecting her inner turmoil. Castle Tilden looks away, lost in thought, his expression conveying deep contemplation. Narration explains that wedding preparations proceeded smoothly without delay, showing a grand palace. Serenil, veiled in a white dress, stands among other women, as narration mentions she was given only one thing for the wedding. The narration reveals the single item was a shabby, worn-out dress, depicted by barren branches. Serenil, in a simple white dress with a black veil, lies down, looking forlorn. Narration explains the wedding was rushed due to Sir Tilden's upcoming expedition, showing a priest in a hall. Inside a church, the priest asks Serenil and Castle Tilden if they swear to love one another. Castle Tilden solemnly responds, "I do." Serenil remains silent, her veiled face showing immense sadness during the ceremony. The priest declares Serenil and Castle Tilden husband and wife after they exchange vows. Serenil and Castle Tilden stand side by side in their wedding attire, facing their new future together. Serenil's eye shows deep emotion as someone addresses her as Princess. Castle Tilden explains the wedding was rushed but promises a proper ceremony upon his safe return. Serenil reassures Castle Tilden not to worry about the hasty wedding. Serenil, in her wedding dress, firmly states that the circumstances are not his responsibility. Serenil reflects on a past kiss, wondering if refusing it would have changed her fate. She continues to ponder if her refusal of that kiss could have altered her painful reality. Castle Tilden asserts that it is indeed his responsibility. Castle Tilden declares he will deal with his own mistakes himself, his gaze resolute. Serenil reflects that the word mistakes will likely haunt her forever as the bell tolls for the Count's deployment. Castle Tilden embraces Serenil, their backs to the viewer, under a somber sky, emphasizing their connection. The bell announcing the Count's deployment rings. Narration describes the bittersweet irony, as this was the wedding she had dreamed of for so long. Serenil, veiled, gazes at Castle Tilden, a quiet moment of her long-held dream. Narration reveals that day, despite being her wedding, was no different from any other burdened day, as Castle Tilden embraces her. Guards outside the palace comment, noticing Serenil and Castle Tilden. Whispers circulate among the guards, questioning why Castle Tilden would marry a monster princess, with one urging caution. Serenil, in her wedding dress, holds her bouquet, looking downcast as she overhears the hurtful comments. Castle Tilden approaches Serenil, addressing her as Princess Serenil. Castle Tilden hands Serenil a letter, explaining he wrote it because they had no time to speak properly before his departure. Castle Tilden apologizes for not being able to escort her to the estate, and Serenil looks surprised, wondering if the letter is for her. Castle Tilden looks solemn as he prepares to ride off on his horse, ready for deployment. Serenil stands with a sorrowful expression, uttering a quiet "please" as she watches the departure. Castle Tilden rides away with his regiment of knights, departing for his expedition. Serenil's veiled face shows a pensive and sad expression as she processes the events. A woman informs Serenil that it is time for her to proceed to the Count's estate. A horse-drawn carriage waits, ready to transport Serenil to her new home. Serenil holds the letter, realizing it is from Sir Tilden, a sudden realization washing over her. Serenil reads Castle's letter, which contains an apology for his hasty departure without speaking to her. The letter continues, with Castle explaining he is not fully aware of the circumstances, but realizes his family's wealth has diminished. Castle's letter assures Serenil that, despite any inconvenience, his retainers are instructed to serve her with utmost care. The letter concludes with Castle Tilden signing off as her loyal vassal and husband, as he is shown looking thoughtful. A tear falls onto the letter in Serenil's hand, plop, as she reads its contents. Serenil looks deeply troubled, her thoughts consumed by Sir Tilden. Serenil wonders why Sir Tilden is being so kind to her, despite their unwanted marriage. Serenil tells herself not to cry, acknowledging that the finances seem tight for the estate. Serenil resolves that they will quickly recover from their financial difficulties. Serenil looks around with a concerned expression, noticing her desolate surroundings. Serenil observes the terrible state of the facilities at the estate, noting their disrepair. Serenil looks at the neglected mansion, surprised that the once distinguished Tilden family home is in such a state. Hans, the head butler, introduces himself and quickly moves on to more pressing matters. Serenil looks directly at Hans, demanding an explanation for the current situation. The scene highlights the neglected state of the estate's garden, with broken structures. Serenil expresses her confusion, asking what is going on, while a small chibi character greets the reader. Serenil insists that Hans explain the situation to her. Hans appears pensive, warning Serenil that the explanation might take a while. Hans suggests they go inside the Count's estate to discuss the matters. Serenil walks through a long, empty hallway, escorted by Hans. Serenil observes that the large mansion seems to have only a handful of servants. Serenil looks thoughtfully, a sudden realization crossing her mind. Serenil stands before a portrait of Castle as a young boy with his parents. Hans explains that the portrait was painted before young Master Castle entered the military academy. The narration describes Castle's parents as a devoted couple, and Castle as a healthy, gifted child in swordsmanship. A panicked voice announces that something terrible has happened to the master. Castle's mother looks shocked and devastated, as the narration states their happiness did not last long, accompanied by a thump. Castle's mother, and a young Castle, mourn over the master's coffin. The narration explains that the master passed away while on duty, showing his mother's grief. Castle's mother appears distressed, as someone suggests a distraction might be nice. The narration reveals that those seeking to exploit the Tilden family swarmed around them. Castle's mother is depicted with extravagant jewels, implying attempts to maintain their facade of wealth. A man desperately tells Castle's mother that things cannot continue, but she angrily tells him not to order her around. Castle's mother, tearful, insists they can simply borrow money. Hans explains to Serenil that Castle's mother took out loans, causing the debt to quickly grow, leading to their current predicament. Serenil reflects on how Castle's mother concealed the worsening financial situation. Hans continues his explanation, stating that Castle was rarely at the mansion and when his mother was passing away. Hans stands by Castle's mother's bedside, listening to her final requests. Castle's mother asks Hans to sell all her jewels and villa after she dies to repay the debt. Cassel's mother also asks Hans to keep her financial troubles a secret from Cassel. Cassel's mother smiles sadly, wishing Cassel would not think of her as a disgraceful mother. Hans reflects on the late Countess's plea to keep the financial troubles secret. Hans confesses he couldn't refuse the late Countess's dying wish to conceal the debt. Serenil is shocked to learn such tragedy befell the once prestigious Tilden family. Hans reveals there's one more secret, and Serenil awaits his explanation. Hans presents a small, ornate pouch, revealing it was entrusted to him by Cassel. Serenil looks surprised, questioning what the mysterious pouch contains. Serenil's eye widens dramatically in shock at the contents. The pouch spills open, revealing a glittering abundance of gold coins, shocking Serenil. Hans explains Cassel hoped the money would help support Serenil's new life. Serenil feels overwhelmed, wondering why Cassel would do this for her. A radiant image of Cassel appears, looking noble and contemplative. Cassel, in formal attire, appears resolute and prepared. The scene darkens, signaling a shift in perspective. Cassel looks pensive, seemingly lost in thought. Cassel's hand gently rests on Serenil's shoulder, offering a moment of quiet comfort. The dark, abstract background emphasizes the weight of the previous revelations. As they hold hands, Serenil reflects that Cassel always reaches out when she struggles. Serenil clenches her hand, grip, realizing she can't rely on Cassel's help forever. Serenil resolves that this time, she will be the one to offer support. Serenil's veiled face shows newfound determination to take action. Hans confesses most servants resigned, and the mansion is failing, apologizing, but Serenil cuts him off. Serenil declares with resolve that she will handle everything from this moment forward. Serenil instructs Hans they will begin by hiring new servants and slowly rebuild the estate. Hans, touched by her determination, tearfully acknowledges Serenil's command. Serenil, resolute, demands the ledger to review all previous expenses. Hans immediately agrees to Serenil's request, ready to assist her. Serenil reflects, perhaps with a touch of doubt, on her grand declarations. Serenil, long confined to the palace, wonders if she can truly overcome this difficult situation. Serenil is determined that Cassel will not return from war to see the mansion in ruins. Serenil holds the pouch, contemplating the potential for divorce in their future. Serenil resolves to restore the Count's household, ensuring his future peace of mind. Serenil believes restoring the estate is the only way she can repay him. A soldier urgently warns Lord Tilden that the enemy is now right in front of them. Cassel, calm and armored, rides his horse, ready for battle. Vroom. Cassel holds a shimmering ring, thinking of Princess Serenil. Shimmer. Holding the ring, Cassel imagines Serenil arriving at the mansion around this time. Cassel looks at the ring, clink, promising to return soon and asking her to wait. Cassel commands all his forces to prepare for battle. The military camp shows flags flying as forces prepare for combat, charge, clatter. The scene transitions with a burst of light, signifying the impending battle. Cassel sits at a desk, quill in hand, scribble, while another soldier stands nearby, rustle. Cassel writes, "Dearest Princess Serenil," on a letter, scratch. The pen continues to write, drip, dab, on the "Dearest Princess" letter. Cassel pauses, sighing, unsure of what to write next in his letter. Cassel wonders if Serenil has read the letter he gave her that day. The narrative recalls a small party held at the Grand Palace. A young boy presents a small purple comb to the surprised Princess Laya. Swish. The boy politely tells Lila he believes she dropped something. Lila thanks him with a bright smile, leaving him with an impression of intelligence. Lila appears flustered, making a small, embarrassed sound as young Cassel watches her. Lila blushes, explaining she was looking for someone to practice dancing with. Blush. The young boy, Cassel, responds politely, asking if she would mind. Lila smiles brightly, extending her hand as she happily agrees to dance. Young Cassel takes Lila's hand, beginning their dance together. Cassel reflects that he already knew her. Lila laughs joyfully as they dance. Cassel thinks to himself that he would never be able to look away from her. From that day on, Cassel yearned to get closer to Lila, shown dancing together in the Grand Palace. Young Cassel trained intensely at the military academy, determined to become stronger than anyone else. Cassel's eye shows deep resolve and determination during his rigorous training. Soldiers gossip, revealing rumors that Princess Serenil has been cursed. Cassel, observant and pensive, walks through the bustling palace hall, where Serenil is also present. Cassel looks thoughtful, likely processing the disturbing rumors about Serenil's curse. Serenil stands elegantly in a beautiful gown and veil at the party. Cassel offers his hand, requesting the honor of a dance from Serenil. Cassel gallantly kisses Serenil's veiled hand, asking her for the first dance. Despite enduring open looks of disgust, Serenil continued to persevere. Cassel and Serenil dance gracefully amidst other guests at the palace. Serenil's veiled expression conveys a hint of sadness as she dances with Cassel. Cassel reflects on his desire to grow strong enough to protect Serenil. Cassel kneels before an older, authoritative figure, symbolizing his dedication and advancement. Cassel's gaze shows a determined resolve as he recalls becoming the youngest knight. A broken glass represents Cassel's shattered hopes, thinking he had finally gotten a little closer. Cassel's troubled expression reveals his internal thought. She was someone whose eyes he felt unworthy of meeting. Serenil looks distraught and vulnerable, clutching a cloth to herself. Cassel, in his armor, expresses regret, feeling he couldn't control his actions due to a drug. A flashback shows Cassel forcibly kissing a woman, reflecting his past mistake. Cassel's internal monologue reveals he believes the princess was terrified and unable to resist him. Cassel covers his face, muttering in distress that he is now her husband. Mutter. Cassel crumples something in his hand, convinced she will never forgive him for just a letter. Crumple. Cassel's eyes show determination, as he resolves to go back and apologize to Serenil properly. Cassel looks determined, realizing he must end the war as quickly as possible to fulfill his promise. Cassel questions the commotion outside, while a startled soldier stands nearby. A large crowd gathers as someone shouts to chase and catch an individual. A voice from the crowd declares that Noah never loses when it comes to building. Noah, a smaller man, stands confidently facing a much larger opponent. Cassel comments on the betting brawl, noting the size difference, but a soldier assures him not to worry. Noah smirks as a man explains that despite his appearance, Noah has never lost a fight. The larger man angrily calls Noah a cocky little brat and prepares to attack. Noah skillfully moves with fast and precise movements, neutralizing his opponent's force. Cassel observes that Noah understands how a larger body leads to slower movements and more openings. Noah expertly demonstrates patience, stamina management, and sharp judgment during the fight. Noah delivers a powerful blow to his larger opponent. Noah stands victorious over his unconscious opponent, who lies defeated on the ground. Noah smiles, thanking someone for the easy pocket money he earned from the fight. Noah checks his winnings, wondering how much money he made today. Cassel praises Noah, telling him it was a good fight. Noah casually dismisses the fight as mere training, expressing surprise to see Cassel outside his tent and decides to leave before things escalate. Cassel apologizes for the disturbance as a piece of armor lies on the ground. Cassel firmly grips Noah's arm, indicating he isn't finished with their conversation. Noah reacts with surprise as Cassel informs him that he can even use a weapon in their upcoming fight. Cassel explains he cannot wager money due to his position, but promises to grant Noah anything he desires if he wins, prompting Noah to ask if that means cash. Cassel, standing before a rack of weapons, agrees to the terms of the wager. Cassel warns Noah that if he loses the fight, he will be forced to join him on the front lines. Serenil, seated across from Evans, asks her mentor about the state of the household's finances, given his experience with the royal treasury. Serenil reflects that the financial situation of the estate is far more dire than she could have ever imagined. Evans sadly informs Serenil that the current funds will not last even 3 years. A promotional image signals a brief interlude or transition in the narrative. Serenil and Evans discuss how even with the princess's dowry, the estate's finances will not last 3 years. This scene introduces Evans, identified as Serenil's mentor. Serenil questions if the situation is still difficult even with royal living expenses and Cassel's salary, and Evans confirms it. Evans expresses shame, admitting that under the current conditions, they cannot cover all the household's expenses. Evans explains that while a stable income source would help, the mine granted to the princess has been practically abandoned, surprising Serenil. Serenil looks surprised, questioning if it is truly an abandoned mine and if they can't extract any gems from it. The scene shifts to the entrance of a desolate mine, as Evans explains that according to records, nothing has been mined there for the past 7 years, confirming it's abandoned. Serenil realizes that those who arranged the marriage would never give her anything truly valuable, making her feel deeply troubled. A shimmering image of Castle appears, inspiring Serenil's resolve to prevent him from returning to a ruined estate. Serenil gazes out a window, thinking she doesn't want Cassel to see the estate in such a rundown state upon his return. Serenil's veiled face shows a quiet determination as she considers her next steps. Serenil declares her intention to personally inspect the mine to confirm whether it truly has no value. A horse-drawn carriage travels along a bumpy, unpaved road with the rhythmic sounds of movement. Serenil holds her hand to her mouth, feeling nauseous and noting how long it has been since she traveled such a distance. The carriage wheel bumps loudly as Serenil observes the rough road and thinks it's worse than she expected. Serenil sees Hans and another woman struggling in the carriage, wishing they had been able to afford 2 carriages. Serenil's hand rests on the carriage window, signaling a pause in their journey. Aiden, an escort knight, smilingly suggests they stop traveling as it's getting dark and would be dangerous. Aiden points towards a nearby inn, proposing they rest there for the night. Serenil looks at the inn, thinking it's hard to say if the environment will be comfortable for everyone. Serenil observes Hans and another maid looking visibly ill, concluding that both have reached their limit. Serenil, with a sigh, resigns herself to the situation and decides they will stay at the inn for the night. Serenil stands with Hans and the knights near the carriage, instructing everyone to rest well. A close-up on Serenil's thoughtful expression hints at her strategic mind at work. A guard with a knowing smirk internally comments that even with a curse, a princess is still a princess. The scene transitions, focusing on the simple, clean interior of a room. Serenil sits at a table, regretting their hasty departure and vowing to research routes better next time. The door opens with a click as someone prepares to enter the room. Aiden, the escort knight, enters Serenil's room, holding a tray with her dinner. Serenil recognizes Aiden as one of the guards, and he confirms his name. Aiden presents the dinner tray to Serenil, who thanks him. Aiden, with a slight smile, remarks that such service is only natural for a princess. Aiden cautions Serenil that the simple meal might not suit a princess's refined palate. Aiden provocatively asks Serenil if she's never seen a commoner's meal before. Aiden leans closer, further teasing Serenil by asking if she's incapable of eating unless someone feeds her. Serenil's eye narrows, showing her irritation at Aiden's rude behavior. Serenil internally expresses her shock at being treated so disrespectfully by a knight. Serenil reflects that she never would have imagined such treatment when she lived in the royal palace. Serenil sternly reminds herself that now, more than ever, she must not get emotional. Serenil asks Aiden, confirming his name. Serenil asserts that she has left the royal palace and is now a part of the Tilden family. Serenil declares with resolve that she has no intention of acting like a princess, and Aiden doesn't need to treat her like one either. Hans looks blankly surprised at Serenil's resolved declaration. Aiden asks Serenil a question, and she permits him to speak. Serenil stands with a determined expression, maintaining her resolve. Aiden questions Serenil if traveling all the way to the mine is truly necessary. Serenil reflects that her marriage was not one of love. Serenil recalls Cassel helping her when she was in trouble, seeing a shimmering memory of him offering his hand. Serenil resolves to repay Cassel's kindness, a quiet determination evident in her eyes. Aiden smiles, observing that Serenil's expression contradicts her words about not loving Cassel. Aiden remarks that Serenil has a surprisingly girlish side, finding her less difficult than he initially thought. Serenil internally notes that the more she knows Aiden, the more ill-mannered he seems. Aiden and Serenil maintain a polite yet subtly tense atmosphere as they sit opposite each other. Aiden advises Serenil to watch her step as she begins to exit the carriage. Serenil thanks Aiden as he helps her down from the carriage. A man from the mine, the guide, greets Serenil and her companions, stating he has been waiting for her. The guide asks Serenil if she is Lady Serenil, with a rustling sound. The guide smiles broadly, expressing his honor to meet Serenil. Aiden introduces the man to Serenil as the miner who will guide them. Serenil shakes the guide's hand, stating, "The pleasure is hers and she will be in his care," with a clink. The guide assures Serenil he knows the area well, urging her to follow him with peace of mind, though his eye holds a suspicious glint. Serenil and the guide shake hands, a spark of light radiating from their joined hands. The guide internally observes Serenil's soft, uncalloused hands. Serenil instructs Ebony to rest at the inn, flinching slightly as she speaks. Serenil declares that she and Aiden will proceed to the mine. The narrative highlights that this person is not a real miner. A promotional image encourages readers to join the team for more content. A chibified character floats above a formal dining scene with 3 people, giving a promotional message with a click. A man at the table comments that Lila seems to be in a good mood today. Lila smiles, hinting that she might share some good news soon. A man at the dining table questions if the mine given to his sister truly cannot be developed further. A woman confirms the mine is too complex and dangerous, causing miners to refuse entry with a frustrated sigh. The man at the table expresses his understanding of the mine's difficulty. Layla looks thoughtful, touching her lip. Serenil and the guide stand facing each other outside, shaking hands. The guide advises Serenil to change into easier clothes, as the path ahead will be rough. Serenil's veiled face shows her solemn recognition that she must follow the guide for now. Serenil and Aiden walk, discussing someone named Ada Dunn. A man warns someone to be careful, seen from behind. Serenil looks concerned as a male companion expresses a bad feeling about the situation. Serenil and her companions arrive at the mine entrance, questioning if it is indeed the mine mentioned. Inside the mine, the guide explains they found fewer and lower quality magic stones the deeper they dug, with a clicking sound. The guide recounts that the mine was shut down early due to escalating labor costs. A faint magic stone glows, its weak shimmer noted compared to other magic stones. Serenil, holding the magic stone, realizes the true reason she was given this mine. Serenil thinks that an abandoned mine would not attract any buyers. Serenil considers that even abandoning the mine would still incur upkeep costs. Serenil wonders if reviving the mine will be too difficult after all with a shutter. The guide, holding a torch, gestures deeper into the mine, indicating the way forward. The guide smiles reassuringly, telling Serenil there's no need to worry despite the rough path. Serenil refuses to proceed further without proper gear, declaring it too dangerous. The guide, with a sly smile, asks Serenil why she wouldn't take a quick look around since she came all this way. Serenil feels hesitant to go further into the mine, worried about the potential dangers. Serenil continues her internal monologue, realizing that if they proceed, Aiden would also be at risk. Serenil confronts the guide, revealing she knows he's not a real miner, and offers him all her money in exchange for introducing her to a genuine one. The guide reacts with surprise, a clanging sound heard, acknowledging her unexpected insight. The guide pulls out a dagger, a shing sound heard, and mockingly states he thought a shut-in princess like her would be clueless. The guide reveals his plan has fallen apart and lunges, a bang sound accompanying his attack. Aiden intercepts the attack, protecting Serenil as she watches in shock. Serenil notices Aiden is bleeding and expresses concern, but he tells her he is fine and to stay back. Serenil frantically questions why Aiden would risk his life for her, emphasizing she is no longer a princess. The guide stares menacingly, asking Serenil if she has forgotten what people call her. The guide continues to taunt Serenil, listing the derogatory names people use for her, like hideous monster princess. The guide, still holding his dagger, tells Serenil that her very existence is a burden to the kingdom. Serenil looks distraught, gazing at a floating sword, disbelieving what is happening. Serenil has a profound realization about the true orchestrator behind this ambush. The people who ordered the attack are revealed: Lila, an elegant woman, and a man, all seen in a dimly lit setting. A woman expresses her disbelief and outrage, questioning how such a terrible thing could have been done. The distraught woman confronts someone, demanding to know if they summoned Lila to their room. An older woman dismisses someone, stating she has nothing more to say and they may leave. The older woman warns Lila to show her face again when the time comes, an implied threat. Serenil looks downcast, reflecting on her miserable fate. A flashback shows young Serenil training, determined to live up to her royal name since childhood. A flashback depicts young Serenil and Lila sharing a tender moment, with Serenil recalling how she truly cherished Lila. The story returns to Serenil, huddled in a dark room, reflecting on how an unknown curse led to her being locked away. The guide corners Serenil and Aiden, intending to kill them in the desolate mine. The guide smirks confidently, stating that no one ever comes to him, implying their isolation. The guide cruelly tells Serenil and Aiden to rot away, alone and unnoticed. Serenil's eyes fill with tears as she contemplates dying in this manner. Serenil thinks about Cassel, wishing he wouldn't have to witness her pathetic end. The guide, poised to strike, shouts at them to stop talking and die already. Sereniel's eyes well with tears as a soft thump sounds nearby. Aiden looks up, startled, shouting Sereniel's name. Sereniel looks up in surprise as Aiden calls her name again with a soft hum. Aiden cradles Sereniel's head, asking if she's awake, as she groggily asks where she is amidst glowing blue crystals. Sereniel asks what happened after, and Aiden explains she was still breathing when thrown off the cliff. Sereniel, surprised, notes that she feels no pain despite expecting to be cut. Sereniel examines her glowing hand, realizing something significant, with a sparkle sound. A brilliant blue light radiates from fragmented magic stones. Aiden stands over Sereniel, confirming they've discovered a massive amount of magic stones. Aiden explains that the abundant magic stones healed Sereniel's wounds almost instantly. Aiden remarks that Sereniel was incredibly lucky, then calls out to her once more. Sereniel looks on, surprised and relieved, as a chibi character highlights the disappearance of the mark on her face. A promotional image encourages readers to visit the website for more series. Sereniel touches her face, realizing with astonishment that the cursed mark is gone. Sereniel stares in disbelief, touching her cheek and questioning if her scar truly disappeared. Sereniel holds the glowing magic stone, wondering if its power resonated with her and cleansed the curse. Tears stream down Sereniel's face as she clutches the magic stone, feeling like a dream has come true. Sereniel calls out to Aiden, who asks what she needs. Sereniel looks at Aiden and formally asks him to become her personal knight. Aiden expresses surprise at her sudden request, as Sereniel points out the immense value of the magic stones. Sereniel resolves that others will undoubtedly try to kill her again, determined to protect herself with her new asset. Sereniel looks surprised as Aiden finishes his sentence, revealing her identity. Aiden tells Sereniel to help him find a way out, but she protests, refusing his demand. Sereniel, surprised by Aiden's stance, asks what reward he desires. Aiden smiles, asking how much Sereniel is willing to offer him. Aiden mocks Sereniel's combat skills, then remarks that the princess has a sense of humor. Sereniel and Aiden walk through the desolate mine. A narrative box explains they safely escaped the mine, showing Sereniel, Aiden, and the household staff gathered outside. Through Aiden's mercenary guild, they began gradually circulating the magic stones. Sereniel narrates that she created a fictitious identity and started a business, shown shaking hands with another woman. The grand estate is now bustling and appears well-maintained under a bright sky, indicating improved finances. Evans greets Sereniel warmly, acknowledging her return to the now prosperous estate. Sereniel smiles confidently, looking refreshed in her new attire within the grand estate. Evans approaches Sereniel in the garden, asking if something is the matter. Evans presents Sereniel with a letter on a tray, explaining it's from Lord Castle. Sereniel's face shows deep concern and a sense of foreboding after receiving the letter. Sereniel holds the letter, gazing out a window in a dimly lit room, lost in thought. A strong hand draws a sword. Thud. A knight, presumably Castle, adjusts his helmet, looking prepared for battle. Cassell expresses his eager anticipation to see Sereniel again. Sereniel reads the letter, confirming it is from Castle Tilden. Sereniel realizes Cassell is finally returning, her feet tapping nervously. Tap. A man waves to a woman at the bustling and elegant estate. The narration explains that the previously desolate garden has been brought back to full bloom. The narration states there are still plenty of surplus funds left, highlighting their prosperity. A treasure chest full of gold, gems, and pearls with a golden key symbolizes their newfound wealth. Sereniel carries a small chest, reflecting that she has done everything she possibly could. Sereniel expresses her one regret while holding the small chest. Thump! Sereniel opens the chest, revealing numerous unopened letters, her regret being never replying to a single one. Sereniel gazes at the letters, realizing they piled up until the box was completely full. A hand slips a ring onto another, as Sereniel reflects that Castle still chose to accept her as his wife. Sereniel acknowledges that Cassell must have longed to build a life with someone he truly loved. Sereniel holds the chest, deciding she must step aside for Cassell to be with someone he truly cherishes. Thump! Someone questions Sereniel, asking what she's so deeply in thought about. Aiden reveals his presence, remarking that Sereniel didn't even notice him. Sereniel expresses surprise to see Aiden, who explains he returned this morning for a new magic stone trade deal. Aiden smiles, offering whatever Sereniel needs. Sereniel instructs Aiden to pack her things for her. Sereniel looks determined as someone gasps in surprise. Aiden looks surprised and slightly distressed, asking if Serenil is leaving. A maid enters a room with a large window, announcing Sir Tilden will be arriving soon. Whoosh! Serenil sits in a black dress and veil, wondering if she'll be able to discuss the divorce properly, as the maid announces her return. Serenil glances sideways, her veiled face hinting at her emotions as she awaits the meeting. Castle enters, looking at Serenil as she nervously greets Sir Tilden. Decorative branches frame the elegant yet somber setting. Cassell extends his hand to Serenil, apologizing for being away for 5 years. Serenil clenches her hand, expressing relief that Cassell has returned safely. Castle suggests Serenil must be exhausted and should take time to rest. Serenil, looking downcast under her veil, feels like they are strangers despite being married. Cassell looks away, acknowledging that they are only connected on paper. Cassell admits they've never truly acted as husband and wife, then pauses, clenching his hand. Thump! Serenil sits elegantly, her veiled face conveying a resolute expression as she prepares to speak. A stark declaration appears, revealing Serenil's intent to pursue a divorce. Serenil stands formally opposite Cassell, ready to initiate a serious discussion about their relationship. Serenil looks down, her veiled profile showing her unwavering determination regarding the impending divorce. Cassell grabs Serenil's hand, surprising her as he reacts to her surprising words. Shh. Cassell stares intently at Serenil, directly asking if she has developed feelings for someone else. Serenil tries to clarify her statement, but Cassell interrupts, insisting on making his position clear. Serenil looks taken aback, questioning why Cassell is reacting so strongly. Cassell, with a stern expression, declares he has no intention of letting Serenil leave him. A chibi character floats, encouraging readers to visit a website for more exciting stories. As Cassell approaches, a chibi character reminds Serenil to stay firm and not be swayed by him. Serenil, with a somber expression, wonders if Cassell suspects her of infidelity. Castle looks intently at Serenil, demanding to know the true reason behind her desire for a divorce. Serenil clenches her hand, reminding Cassell of the circumstances of their marriage as a sufficient reason for separation. Cassell reacts with shock, demanding to know why Serenil would utter such a request. Why? Serenil maintains her composure, stating that Cassell would gain nothing by continuing their marriage. Cassell grimaces, questioning Serenil's strong opposition if there is truly nothing to gain or lose. A butler interrupts Cassell, apologizing for intruding on their conversation. The butler announces to Cassell and Serenil that a guest has arrived. Cassell suggests they postpone their discussion, turning away with a troubled expression. Cassell tells Serenil to retire to her room. Serenil walks through the elegant hall, looking thoughtful as she retreats to her quarters. Serenil looks surprised, as if hearing a sound, subtly turning her head. Aiden appears, dressed formally, apologizing to Serenil for making her wait. Serenil asks if the guest has departed, and Aiden confirms it, complimenting her excellent preparations. Aiden remarks that 5 years have passed since Castle's departure for war. Serenil expresses her thanks, and Aiden bows in response, surprising her. Aiden compliments Serenil, acknowledging her remarkable efforts in maintaining the mansion. Aiden thanks Serenil for single-handedly restoring the house in his absence. Serenil looks surprised by his gratitude, stating she merely did what was necessary. Serenil, standing by a desk, informs Castle that Hans will manage the mansion from now on. Serenil, holding divorce papers, asks Cassell to sign them at his earliest convenience. Cassell looks upset, stating he cannot agree to the divorce and is still unconvinced. Serenil looks visibly startled, questioning Cassell's firm refusal. Cassell leans in, insisting he will not sign the divorce papers without a clear explanation from Serenil. Serenil is internally frustrated, wondering why Cassell is being so stubborn about the divorce. Serenil reveals her core reason, stating she doesn't want to become a burden on Cassell's life. Cassell leans closer, his hand near her face, questioning why she looks so sad. Castle looks at Serenil, asking why she makes such a melancholy expression. Castle pulls Serenil into a sudden hug, surprising her. Serenil looks surprised, caught in Cassell's embrace. Cassell holds Serenil, confessing he has never considered something like this before. Serenil nervously asks Castle if her presence bothers him due to others' gazes, offering to try harder. Cassell leans in, cradling Serenil's face, promising to exert more effort to protect her from external judgments. Serenil gently touches Castle's arm, asserting that her predicament cannot be resolved through mere effort. Cassell looks down seriously, asking Serenil directly if she truly desires a divorce from him. Serenil, veiled, looks solemn as she considers Cassel's question. Cassel proposes a temporary truce, offering to postpone the divorce discussion until the royal palace's triumphant party if Serenil agrees now. Cassel explains his reason, stating he doesn't want to ruin the celebration where she is the guest of honor. Serenil looks up at Cassel, expressing her simple wish for his happiness. Cassel looks intently at Serenil, questioning if her desire for a divorce is truly how she feels. Serenil, veiled and solemn, confirms her decision, illuminated by sunlight. Cassel asks Serenil for a chance until the celebratory party, which seems to surprise her. Cassel grabs Serenil's chin, pulling her closer with a determined expression, causing her to gasp. Cassel clarifies his intention to make Serenil reconsider the divorce. Serenil sits in a bath filled with petals, contemplating Cassel's request. Serenil wonders inwardly what Cassel gains by attempting to keep her, questioning his motives. A maid helps Serenil, asking why she isn't telling Cassel that her curse has disappeared. The maid suggests telling him, but Serenil asserts there's no need to reveal the curse is gone. Serenil, with tears in her eyes, believes the absence of her curse won't change their relationship. Serenil feels that if she told Cassel about the curse, he would simply be at a loss on how to react. Serenil concludes that revealing the truth would only burden and trouble Cassel. The scene darkens, emphasizing Serenil's gloomy internal thoughts. Serenil looks up in surprise as Cassel appears in her room late at night. Cassel gently reaches for Serenil's face, surprising her with his unexpected presence. Cassel asserts that it is natural for a married couple to sleep in the same room. Cassel smiles gently, a soft glow around him, as he continues to press Serenil on the matter. Cassel asks Serenil if she will let him in, making her blush. Cassel is shown in the background of Serenil's room, while a chibi character comments on the situation. Cassel reiterates his question, asking if Serenil will let him share the room. Cassel leans in, intimately calling Serenil's name. Cassel notices Serenil is crying, urging her to come closer to him. Cassel pulls Serenil onto the bed, telling her to sit and calm herself. Cassel kneels before Serenil, apologizing for upsetting her as he holds her hand. Cassel reveals he only wanted to finally have the conversation they'd never had. Cassel looks at Serenil, apologizing once more for startling her. Cassel states he will return tomorrow, stepping away from Serenil. Cassel bids Serenil goodnight, leaving her sitting alone on the bed. Serenil looks surprised and uncertain, as if sensing Cassel's lingering presence. Serenil, with a softer expression, tells Cassel he can stay a little longer. Cassel confesses that his desire to talk wasn't the only reason he came, hinting at deeper feelings. Cassel admits he simply didn't want Serenil to hate him. Serenil, with a pained smile, questions why Cassel would care if a hideous wife like her hated him. The scene transitions to a peaceful garden view, with the soft sound of a bird. Serenil sits at an outdoor table, veiled, and subtly glances around the estate garden. Cassel sips his tea, internally finding the situation a bit awkward after their shared night. Cassel smiles, politely thanking Serenil for joining him for tea. Serenil looks away, preparing to discuss the primary reason for their meeting. Cassel asks Serenil what she wanted to discuss, adding that he wanted to express his gratitude. Serenil questions Cassel's thanks, as he explains his corps previously lacked military support and funds. Cassel recounts that Hans arrived with Serenil's servants, just as he considered using his personal funds. Hans and another servant state they are delivering new clothing and weapons for the soldiers on Princess Serenil's orders. Hans and the servant inform Cassel's men that comfortable rooms have also been prepared for them. Two of Cassel's soldiers express amazement at the fine accommodations, praising the captain's wife. Cassel smiles, thanking Serenil on behalf of all his men. Serenil responds that she only offered them the hospitality due to practically being Tildrian knights. Serenil asks Cassel if he shouldn't be heading to the royal palace soon for the victory banquet. Serenil, holding a maid's hand, states her intention to contact an atelier for Cassel. Cassel looks surprised, questioning her mention of an atelier. Serenil explains she will have a new outfit tailored for Cassel for the banquet, though he protests it's unnecessary. Serenil firmly insists that it is absolutely necessary given Cassel's heroic status. Serenil tells Cassel that, as a hero, he deserves to be treated with the same regard as his knights. Serenil, as Cassel's wife, pleads with him to allow her to do at least this much for him. A close-up on Cassel's blue eye, as he thoughtfully considers Serenil's words. Cassel places his hand firmly on the table, declaring he will need Serenil's assistance if that's the case. Serenil looks surprised, questioning Cassel's meaning. Cassell stands and takes Serenil's hand, asking if she would help him choose an outfit. Serenil looks surprised as a chibi character encourages readers to visit a website for more stories. Cassell reiterates his request, asking Serenil to help him pick out his outfit. Cassell kisses Serenil's hand, explaining he needs her discerning eye to maintain a knight's dignity. Serenil looks wide-eyed, surprised by Cassell's actions. Tarita, the owner of Tarita's atelier, greets Serenil warmly. Tarita gestures, inviting Serenil and Cassell to explore the new designs in her atelier. Serenil walks with Cassell through the atelier, wondering if it was appropriate for him to accompany her. Cassell calls out Serenil's name, getting her attention. Cassell asks Serenil if she is close with Tarita, noting how casually she was called Seren. Serenil explains that they are merely business partners, accounting for the casual address. Cassell leans in, implying that if business partners can be casual, then he, as her husband, should be allowed to be too. Cassell asks if he can also call her Seren, placing a hand on her waist. Serenil blushes deeply, surprised by Cassell's intimate question. Serenil hesitantly tells Cassell he can do as he likes, and he confirms he will now call her Seren. Cassell looks around the atelier, remarking on the wide variety of clothing styles available. Cassell admits it's his first time choosing his own outfit, and he's unsure what would suit him. Serenil stands before a mannequin, contemplating a white suit. Cassell approaches, asking Serenil if that particular suit is the one that caught her eye. Serenil touches the suit, offering her personal opinion to Cassell. Cassell immediately decides to take the suit Serenil chose, despite her suggestion to look at more options. Serenil suggests Cassell consider more options to find something he truly likes, but he insists on the chosen outfit. Cassell smiles at Serenil, explaining he will take the suit simply because she chose it for him. An atelier employee asks Cassell if he wants a specific outfit, praising his good taste and confirming he will retrieve it. Cassell decides Serenil's dress should also be blue, surprising her as she inwardly notes she has many dresses at the estate. Cassell explains that married couples must attend the victory banquet together, adding that matching colors will be visually appealing. The atelier owner enthusiastically points to a covered dress, declaring it the perfect new design for Serenil. The atelier owner proudly unveils a sparkling blue dress, showcasing her design. Serenil looks thoughtful and a bit overwhelmed as she observes the intricate dress. Serenil internally remarks that the dress design is unique and that its minimal lace creates a distinctive atmosphere. Serenil's internal thoughts continue with a hesitant "but" as she gazes at the dress. Serenil expresses worry that the lovely dress might stand out too much. Serenil inwardly considers wearing something simpler, believing the party is for Cassell and she shouldn't be the center of attention, while Cassell stands nearby looking serious. Serenil, startled, states she will take the dress as Cassell suddenly embraces her from behind. Cassell lifts Serenil in a joyful embrace, declaring that they will be the stars of the party this time. Serenil looks surprised and flustered, calling out Cassell's name. Cassell, holding Serenil, tells her that the dress seems to be asking her to wear it. Cassell gently asks Serenil if she will wear the dress and walk beside him. Serenil gently places her hands on Cassell's shoulders, looking at him with a thoughtful expression. A close-up on Serenil's smiling eyes suggests a moment of happiness or acceptance. Serenil, feeling embarrassed, tells Cassell to put her down, and he jokingly agrees he has no choice. The scene abruptly shifts to a menacing, shadowy house as a voice commands everyone to get out. A maid screams in terror as something shatters, indicating a violent intrusion. Lila looks distressed, stating she is not in the mood to deal with someone right now. Layla sits looking distraught, questioning why the situation escalated this way. Layla sits alone, realizing that the Tildrian house's recent suspicious behavior makes sense now. Lila smirks, commenting that she can't believe Serenil is still alive, calling her a tenacious woman. Spencer approaches Lila in her room, asking if this is where she has been. Lila glares at Spencer, sternly reminding him not to enter her room without permission. Spencer smiles, remarking on Layla's coldness toward her own fiancé. Spencer puts his hand on Lila's shoulder, and she recoils internally, noting he reeks of alcohol. Lila turns away from Spencer, looking uncomfortable as he questions if she feels good. Spencer intimately promises to relieve all of Layla's tension if it's her wish. Layla glares at Spencer, demanding how he dares, and orders him to leave instantly. Spencer, looking frustrated, questions Lila's outrage, reminding her they are getting married soon. Spencer points at Layla, accusing her of acting high and mighty and demanding she try being forced to please someone for once. Lila looks furious, internally questioning why she has to marry such a worthless man. Lila wistfully imagines herself being embraced by Cassell, believing he would suit her far better. Lila clenches her fist, thinking she still has a chance before the wedding. Lila stands with a cunning smirk, her expression suggesting a sinister plan brewing. Lila internally vows to make someone regret not dying in that disinheritance. A man walks thoughtfully down a grand hallway. A chibi character appears, encouraging readers to support faster chapter releases. Lila angrily calls someone rude and orders them to leave at once. Spencer accuses Layla of always shamelessly flirting with Count Cassell. The scene focuses on a large wooden door. Marquise Burton, identified as the representative of the House of Lords, invites Spencer to enter. Spencer asks Marquise Burton if he summoned him, and the Marquis confirms it. Marquise Burton intently asks Spencer if his dealings with Princess Layla are progressing well. Spencer confirms he met Layla again today, and Marquise Burton encourages him, saying her feelings will shift with frequent appearances. Spencer smiles, stating he proposed to Lila that they hold the wedding ceremony within the year. Marquise Burton acknowledges Spencer's update, stating he will inform His Majesty as well. Marquise Burton looks forward to seeing the monster princess at the victory party, considering his early charming of His Majesty wise. Marquise Burton praises Cassell's loyalty, deeming him a suitable match for Lady Serenile. Marquise Burton muses that Cassell will surely devote himself to finding a way to break Serenile's curse. Marquise Burton reveals his plan to marry and exile Serenile and Castle, leaving Princess Lila no choice but to marry Spencer. Marquise Burton asserts that someday soon, the Burton family will claim the crown. To achieve their goal, all obstacles must be eliminated. Lila appears in a veiled dress. As the text states, they will be convinced she should inherit the throne. Lila is shown smiling in a white wedding dress, holding a bouquet, bathed in sunlight. Cassell walks purposefully through a grand royal hall as someone calls out his name. Lila smiles, greeting Cassell and commenting on his long absence. Cassell bows, apologizing to Lila for his absence, as she questions if he is already leaving. Cassell confirms he has finished his discussion with His Majesty. Lila tries to entice Cassell to stay for tea, reminiscing about their past. Cassell declines, citing other plans, and impatiently asks for his carriage. Lila looks surprised and disappointed, internally wondering if Cassell is rejecting her again. Layla recalls Cassell always maintained a polite distance. Lila remembers that Cassell always kept his basic manners but never let his guard down around her. Lila watches Cassell with another woman, bitterly noting everyone scrambles to please her, but Cassell always looked at something else. Lila observes Cassell dancing with a different woman, feeling his distant gaze. Lila inwardly laments that Cassell's attention was always elsewhere. Cassell, with a subtle smile, implies that Layla will soon realize his destined partner was always near. A soft light bathes a smiling woman, as the narrative concludes Cassell's destined partner was always in Serenile's shadow. Layla looks pained, reflecting on a past where everything was taken from her, shown with a younger version of herself. A close-up on Lila's determined green eye, showing her resolve. Layla asserts to Cassell that this time, she is going to take what she wants. Cassell looks surprised as Layla congratulates him on his upcoming marriage. Lila looks thoughtful, awaiting Cassell's response. Lila suddenly embraces a startled Cassell, calling out his name. Cassell addresses Layla with surprise as she confesses she doesn't want her current marriage. Lila attempts to gain Cassell's sympathy, asking if he understands her feelings about the unwanted marriage. Lila smiles cunningly, asking Cassell if he isn't just like her. Cassell looks away, deep in thought, appearing troubled by Layla's insinuation. Lila clings to Cassell, asking him if he will listen to her worries. A maid stands by a bed in a large room, calling out Lady Serenile's name. The maid, with a concerned expression, states it's already noon, implying Serenile is still sleeping. The maid urges Serenile to wake up soon. Serenile is shown with a terrible fever, and the maid rushes to call for a doctor. Serenile feels her head hurts, despite not overworking. Sensing something is definitely wrong, Serenile sits up, clutching her head, worried something is amiss. A monochrome, distorted image depicts a distressed man, possibly Serenile's father, during a past traumatic event. Serenile is shown collapsing in the past, reflecting that it's just like that time, The distraught man from the past watches Serenil collapse in the flashback. Serenil's feet are shown dangling above the ground in the flashback as she internally denies the situation. Serenil falls, hitting furniture during the past incident. Serenil's leg accidentally knocks over a vase, thinking, "It can't be." The vase shatters into pieces on the floor. Serenil looks distraught, questioning why, as the memory of the past incident continues. Serenil is shown in the present, distressed and touching her face, fearing the mark has reappeared. Serenil's leg brushes against a vase in a flashback, as she internally cries, "No way!" The vase shatters into pieces on the ground, accompanied by Serenil's distraught, "Why?" Serenil is shown in distress, touching her face, internalizing that the mark has reappeared.